Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. For decades, the idea of an electronic implant actually restoring human sight felt like, well, pure science fiction. Or, at best, it was this highly experimental procedure that only really gave people blurry flashes of light. But recently, a company called Science Corporation received European commercial clearance for a device that has completely shattered those old limitations. We are literally looking at a true breakthrough in neural engineering today, and we're going to break down exactly how they achieved it.
Picture this for a second. Imagine being told by your doctors that you would be legally blind for the rest of your life, that the words on a page were just never going to come back. This French woman had advanced age-related macular degeneration, which is a condition that basically completely hollows out the center of your vision. But after getting this new implant, she didn't just see some light. She actually sat down and read a 300-page novel. She completely and totally defied her prognosis.
So to understand how that kind of recovery is even biologically possible, we first have to talk about the main antagonist of our story here, a disease called AMD. This condition affects tens of millions of people globally. It's actually a leading cause of blindness in adults over 50. What it does is it specifically targets and destroys the photoreceptor cells in your macula. That's the tiny central region of your retina that you use for sharp, detailed vision, like reading or recognizing a loved one's face. It hollows out the center of your visual field, but uniquely, it usually leaves your peripheral vision completely intact.
Now, what's really fascinating is what happens right beneath that damage. At the cellular level, AMD destroys those top photoreceptor cells, the ones that actually capture the light. But it completely spares the sort of root system underneath. The interretinal neurons, like the bipolar and ganglion cells, are just sitting there. They're perfectly healthy, but they're completely disconnected from the light above, basically just waiting for a signal. If we can somehow bypass the dead photoreceptors and stimulate those surviving neural branches directly, we can theoretically restore sight. The thing is, for years, bypassing those dead cells was incredibly crude. Older technology, like the Argus 2 implant, really only gave patients these blurry shapes or flashes of light. Was it helpful for navigating a room? Sure, but you definitely couldn't read a book with it. And that is exactly where Science Corp's PRIMA technology completely changes the game. It bypasses all those old limitations to actually restore the perception of crisp letters and numbers. Which brings us to the absolute holy grail of visual prosthetics. The thing they finally solved here is called form vision. This isn't just about knowing if a light bulb is turned on in a room. Form vision is the ability to recognize detailed, complex patterns. It's literally the difference between seeing a blurry blob and realizing, oh, that blob is a capital letter A. Restoring this specific level of visual acuity has been the ultimate goal of neural engineering for decades. And the PRIMA system is the very first brain-computer interface to receive CE marking in Europe, specifically for restoring form vision. To actually pull this off and restore form vision, you need hardware. And this hardware is astonishingly small. We're talking about the PRIMA chip, which is roughly 2 millimeters across and just 30 microns thick. During a pretty quick 1-hour outpatient procedure, surgeons slip this tiny microchip right under the degenerate retina. It goes right into the exact physical space where those damaged photoreceptor cells used to be, essentially acting as an artificial electronic replacement for the cells the patient lost. But the chip under the retina is really only half the story. The patient also wears a specialized pair of augmented reality glasses, fitted with a miniature camera. This camera captures whatever visual scene is in front of the patient in real time. Then, a pocket computer processes that image. It enhances the contrast, adapts to the ambient light, and the glasses send that encoded visual signal directly into the eye to the chip. And here is where it gets incredibly cool, almost like a solar punk reality for how this whole system is powered. There are absolutely no wires piercing the eye. None. Instead, those glasses wirelessly beam invisible, near-infrared light right through the pupil and directly onto the implant. These beams of intense 880 nanometer light hit the photovoltaic pixels on the chip. That provides both the visual data and the physical power needed to activate those healthy neural branches we talked about earlier. Okay, so how does a digital camera feed actually turn into human sight? Let's just break this biological mechanism down step by step. First up, the glasses capture the scene. Second, that scene is converted into near-infrared light and beamed onto the implant. Third, the photovoltaic pixels on that tiny chip act exactly like solar panels, converting the light into tiny, ultra-precise pulses of electricity. And finally, those electrical pulses stimulate the bipolar cells, which send the signal right down the optic nerve to the brain. The brain decodes it, and boom, the patient sees. All of this brilliant engineering culminated in the Primavera clinical trial. And honestly, the results are staggering. 84% of trial patients literally regained the ability to read letters, numbers, and words at home. Just think about that for a second. These are individuals who were functionally blind in their central vision. They couldn't read a book, they couldn't recognize a face, and suddenly 84% of them are reading text again. That is just an unprecedented success rate for a visual prosthetic.
When we dive into the raw data published in the New England Journal of Medicine, we see this massive, highly measurable improvement in vision. At the 12-month mark, patients saw an incredible average improvement of 25.5 letters. To put that into perspective, on a standard vision chart, that's an improvement of more than 5 full lines. It completely proves this isn't just a subjective feeling for the patients. It's highly statistically significant clinical efficacy. But beyond just the clinical charts, what does this actually mean for daily life? It translates directly to real-world independence. The trial documented patients not just reading novels, but sketching figures from memory and getting back to their beloved daily hobbies like crossword puzzles and Sudoku. Plus, because the glasses have this built-in electronic zoom-in feature, patients can magnify smaller fonts, hitting an equivalent visual acuity of up to 2063. It's like they're seamlessly merging this brand new prosthetic central vision with their remaining natural peripheral vision. Now, as incredibly enthusiastic as we all are about the science and these genuinely life-changing stories, we do have to ground ourselves for a minute. We have to look at the commercial reality required to actually keep this tech accessible to patients. Because the history of medical devices is just littered with amazing technologies that failed. Not because the science was bad, but simply because the business model couldn't sustain the immense costs of manufacturing, getting regulatory approval, and offering long-term patient support. That commercial reality can be pretty harsh. Take 2022, for example. A company called Second Sight, they made that older Argus 2 implant we mentioned, filed for bankruptcy. It was an absolute tragedy. About 350 people with implants were just left stranded. No firmware updates, no replacement parts, zero support. Science Corp actually entered the picture by acquiring the French startup Pixium Vision in 2024, stepping in to save this PRIMA technology. And now, in 2026, they've officially secured EU commercial clearance, with the very first commercial rollouts happening in Germany.
So to avoid another heartbreaking bankruptcy scenario like Second Sight, the math simply has to work out. Max Hodak, who's the founder of Science Corp and actually the former president of Neuralink, has been really candid about this. He stated point blank that the space needs a company making $100 million a year in revenue to survive. The PRIMA device itself is expected to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the absolute highest priority for the company right now is proving to health insurers in countries like Germany that this six-figure device is absolutely worth covering and securing a reliable way for it to be reimbursed. Finally, I really want to leave you all with this thought as we enter this brave, brand new era of bionic sight. Europe has clearly decided the evidence we have right now is solid enough to bring this to market, and the FDA in the US is actively reviewing it as we speak. But the ultimate test here is time. A microchip implanted in a living, beating human eye is going to encounter challenges we probably can't even fully predict yet. So how will this beautiful marriage of human tissue and photovoltaic technology hold up over 5, 10, or even 15 years? As these patients regain their ability to read, write, and experience the world again, what is a decade of real-world data going to teach us about the true future of human augmentation?